And on the agenda, we shall start with introducing ourselves to Power Query as a tool, and we shall understand what Power Query does, how to install this particular tool in case you're running Office 2013 and below. And we shall also get familiar with the Power Query editor. And later on, we shall see how to use Power Query to do or to connect and load data into Excel, how to do some cleaning stuff, connecting to files, connecting to folders, CSV, PDF files, and also connecting to the internet, and see how we can automate all these processes and so much more. Okay. Now let us introduce ourselves to this particular tool called Power Query. This is known as the get and transform data. If you're running 2013, you might install it as an add-in. I'll be showing you where to go. Install it as an add-in. You'll have the Power Query ribbon tab added on your ribbon. And if you're running Office 2016 and above, then you'll have it as get and transform or get data, whichever you see. But again, it's found onto or inside the data tab. Once you click into your data tab, you'll see anything that resembles get and transform. All those commands that you will see there, that is the Power Query we are talking about. Okay. Facts about this particular tool: it came into Microsoft Excel way back in 2010 as an external add-in, all the way through to versions 2013. You have to install this as an add-in. But again, the bad news is that Microsoft is no longer supporting this particular tool because these 2013 versions are way too old. So you need to upgrade at least newer versions of Microsoft Excel. But if you're running 2016, this was now introduced as an inbuilt feature together, and it was called get and transform. But for myself, because I'm running Office 365, I may have more features, more functionalities than you who is running 2016, 2019, and other versions, because this particular tool has been growing and is still expanding with new features and updates. I believe this is very clear. And what could be the main role of Power Query, we shall be understanding in this particular class. Let's move forward. Why do we need Power Query? You might be asking yourself this particular question. Why do we need Power Query in the first place? Okay. There's a concept in data analytics called the ETL. I believe everyone has heard about ETL, extract, transform, and load data. That's something you need to know if you want to dive into the data analytics world. Okay. So what does this concept do? The extract part of things. Okay. You extract data, or you connect your data analytics tool to different sources and pick data either from databases or from text or CSV files. You can also pick data from Excel workbooks, standalone files. You can connect to PDFs. I'll be showing you some of these things practically in this particular session. We can also connect and pick data directly from the internet or the web. We could also connect from pictures. There is a lot of areas we can connect and pick data. And this particular tool is the tool that also runs inside Power BI. So when you actually move over to Power BI tool, you'll get even more options of connecting to various sources. Now, after you've connected and you've extracted that information, now you have to make some transformations. You go through some transformation, changing your data and shaping it up before you actually start analyzing it. So that stage is called the transform stage. Okay. And inside the transformation stage, you're modifying your data so that it suits your data analysis requirements. We can do things like cleaning, we can do things like combining columns, we can do filtering unwanted rows, we can remove unwanted columns, but also these particular transformation steps that I'm mentioning can also be done inside our normal Excel worksheets. But again, the beauty with Power Query is that it automates all these processes for you. Okay, so that's the main reason why you may need to work with Power Query because it actually automates everything that you do. You set it up once, and the rest, or in the future, when you want to perform the similar task, everything will be automated for you. That's how we do Visual Basic Code. That's how we write VBA codes. Okay. Now the final stage is what we call the loading. So this loading stage is after you've created, after you've extracted data from various sources, as we shall be seeing. You go through some transformation processes, adding columns, removing unwanted, whatever you might be doing. You load it either into Excel, and inside Excel, you also have a number of places where you can actually load this information. I'll be showing you. We can load as a connection only. We can load directly into an Excel table so that we can start our analysis from there. We can actually load to a data model if that is the choice. If that's what you already have inside your tool, you can actually load this information into a data model. I'll be showing you future classes. And we can also load this data into Power Query if that was, into Power BI if that was the tool that you're using to carry on your analysis. Okay. Now, let me hope that everyone is starting to understand what this Power Query tool is all about. If you're not yet there, please let us know in the comment section. I'll be able to go there and check all your questions. But again, in terms of introducing ourselves to the tool, let me hope that everyone is on the same page with us, okay? Let me check as if Andrew Gamkama, you're saying something here. Yeah, the screen is clear and audio is okay. That's fantastic. Let me check as if you're saying the screen is clear. So people are confirming that our screen is coming in through. Verify the screen is clear and the voice is fine. So in case you have any questions, please use the comment section. I'll be able to go there and pop in your questions and answer them on the go. So right now, I believe we have introduced ourselves to Power Query. Let me check. Dennis Mubanga, you're saying kindly zoom in a bit. Your screen text is too small. It depends on which device you're actually watching this particular class. If you're on a mobile, try to change it to landscape mode. If you're on a computer, please try to go widescreen. You'll be able to see what we are presenting. All right. Now let's move forward. What is a query? We talk about Power Query. What is a query? We need to understand what a query is before we actually start generating or working with this Power Query inside Microsoft Excel, okay? This are a set of transformations. We have discussed transformations. You can apply to your raw data to form new presentations or representation of the old raw data that you have loaded either into your data model before you actually start the analysis. So all the transformations that you go through, removing unwanted, cleaning, adding more columns, doing the twisting, everything that you do at transformation level, you load it into, or it combines into what we call a query. So that query is what you use to load your final data that you'll be using for analysis. Okay, let me hope that this is clear, everyone. And we shall be loading our data into these various places that I'm showing here on the screen, either the table as a pivot table report, pivot chart, only as a connection. We can also load into the data model as I'd earlier mentioned. Okay, so the query consists of a set of steps that are automatically recorded for you, so that every time you run that particular query, all steps are repeated automatically. This is exactly how the VBA codes or how VBA programming runs inside Microsoft Excel. So if you are not good in writing VBA codes, then this particular Power Query tool is the right choice for you, because it's actually easy to work with than writing VBA codes. So let me hope that this is introducing ourselves to the tool and everyone understands what we are headed for. Okay, let us know in the comment. I'll be able to move there and check all your questions. Okay, now we shall get familiar with the Power Query tool in just a few minutes from now, and we shall use different examples to connect to various sources of data to test how this particular tool works. And later on, we shall leave it up to you to go ahead and explore what Power Query does or how it can actually help you in your field at your workplace right now. Okay. Now, we shall go through some examples like combining multiple worksheets inside Power Query. How do we do that? Shall show you practically how do we merge Excel tables using Power Query. So when I talk about tables, I believe everyone understands where we are coming from. This is a class we started long time ago. We launched on data analysis, and these are a series of videos or classes that we keep building on what we actually started. Remember, for those who have been in our classes previously, we launched a data analysis training for our guys who are in our community for free, and this is how far we have gone. Now we are looking at Power Query as a tool that we use to analyze our data. Okay, shall go through some examples how to connect to PDF files and pick data from there, and also how to connect to the internet or the web and pick some files that you can work with in your data analysis tasks. And also we shall also look at connecting to folders inside your computer or inside a SharePoint location and bring that data into one single place so that you can analyze it very, very quickly. Okay, so let me hope that this sets ground for everyone who is just joining us. In case you have any questions, please let us know in the comment section. Use that particular comment section so much. And if you want to grab the files so that you can follow along, all the practice files, check the description of this particular video, or you can check the pinned comments. I've also sent you these particular files in your WhatsApp numbers. And if you haven't really joined our community, please check the link that I've put in the description so that you can join our WhatsApp group. You will get notified whenever we are going to be going live. Okay, so that's the small presentation I had. Now let's head over into Microsoft Excel and start working out some of these examples. All right, let me just head over to my folder right here for the files that I've actually sent you. So the first example that I'd like to show you is how do we combine multiple worksheets using Power Query, and we shall be using the append options. So this is the file. If you actually downloaded that folder I shared with you, you will see this particular file right there. So this particular workbook has a number of worksheets. And maybe before I actually start analyzing this data, what I want is to make sure that all these worksheets are combined together so that I can analyze them in one go. Okay, so you go through all of them, you understand them. That's the skill that I always talk about, that if before you actually start working out on any data analysis project, make sure you understand the raw data. Okay, so this seems to be sales data, and you can see the date column, the items, the sales reps that did these transactions, the quantities, the prices, and the commission rates that were given to each individual product. Okay, and we have in total 4 worksheets. We would like to analyze this data in one go. And how do we combine it? Okay, of course we would have used a manual method of highlighting and copying and pasting. Coming over to this worksheet, you highlight, copy, and then you create a fresh worksheet here, and that will take a lot of your time, assuming you are connecting several worksheets. Okay, now let us see how we can connect all these worksheets together using the Power Query. One thing that you need to know is, or one thing that you need to do is make sure that your tables or your data is converted into Excel tables. Because remember, we said when we were introducing ourselves to this particular session or to data analysis using Excel, we said that all data analytics features love to work with structured references, and tables are one of the structured references. Let me just get rid of these titles here so that I'm consistent within my tables. Okay, you can do the same in case you're actually following along so that all the tables are the same. Make sure that all the column or the field names are the same if you are to connect or to combine these files. Okay, Now, one thing that I will do is to click anywhere in my table, and I've given these tables clean names, names that you can easily remember. So do not make sure that your tables, or do not leave your tables in the default naming of table 1, table 2, table 3, and so on and so forth. Make sure that you give them a name that you can easily remember, like you can see. Let me activate my cursor highlighter so that you can see where I'm actually pointing. Now I click anywhere in this table, the first one, and head over to the data tab. Inside my data tab, I'll move over to the get and transform group of tools here. So I can maybe click in here, get data, and I have a number of locations that I can connect to. I can connect to a file. I can connect to a database that could be either a SQL Server database, a Microsoft Access database, any other stuff right there. You can also do Azure right there. And we can also connect to an Excel workbook, a CSV, XML, JSON, PDF, folders, all these options. We shall look at some of them. But for now, because these particular worksheets are in one single workbook, we shall not use the get data drop-down options. We shall come over and locate where there is an option called from table or range. Okay, so click in the table, come over to this particular option right here called from table stroke range, and click in here once. Depending on the speed of your machine, this will launch you into the Power Query editor straightforward. And inside the Power Query editor, what you can do here is you can go through some transformations in case you actually wanted to make changes to this particular data set, of which we shall make a few changes. The data looks to be clean, but we shall make a few changes, maybe adding a column or two before we actually load this one into wherever we shall choose to load it. Okay. Now I can see the Power Query has detected the data type right here. It shows me that this is date and time. In case you don't want the time to show this particular column, you can actually come over right here and change in the drop down here the types, the data types. Change it to date, and there you go. You can see it will ask me, you want to change the column type. If I'm comfortable, then I'll say replace the current, and what happens is that it will convert this one into a date. That's the first transformation we have just done, and you can see under the queries settings here in this particular pane, you'll see all the steps. Every single step that I take here is recorded in the applied steps box here, and this is like writing for you an entire code so that next time you want to do the same on a similar data set, all these steps will run automatically. So this is where they are recorded. Okay. So the other thing that I need to do here with this data set before I combine all of them is I may not easily know this transaction whether it belongs to the Eastern, because remember in our row, if I can minimize this, in our raw data set, we had 4 worksheets. Let me just go back one more time. Just bear with me, I'll discard. So in our raw data, we had 4 worksheets, as you can see. So after we combine, we may not easily know which transaction belongs to which worksheet. So that's why we need to create another column that will tell us that this transaction belongs to the West, East, South, and the Northern region. Okay. So let me repeat the process. I'll go back to the data tab from table or range. The Power Query editor will launch. After it gets launched right there, I can go through some transformations, and the other one that we need to do is to add a column. So that column, I'll come back to the source step here. Let me just go back to the source step right there. Just confirm. What I can do is to get rid of this change type so that we maintain our original data set. So what I need to do here is to make sure that I create a column that will tell me that this particular data set or transaction belongs to the West data worksheet. So I'll come over to the add column option here, and then I'll say custom column. Choose this option here. And of course, this one will launch into a dialog box right here where I can actually create a custom column. Let me just call this one region. I'll just call this one region, and I'll come in here and punch in the region. This is supposed to be data for West as a region. So I'll open quotes, and inside the quotes, I'll punch in the region name. For this one is West. Make sure that you're enclosing it into those, how do we call these? For those people who have been in our classes, the double quotes. Make sure that your text is enclosed in the double quotes. And there is no syntax errors that have been detected here. Confirm. If there is an error here, then your column will not be added. I'll go ahead and say OK. And once I do that, you'll see that this data has added, or we have added the column here, which we have called the region, to make sure that when we combine all the 4 worksheets, we can distinguish which transaction belongs to which worksheet. So you feel free to carry this particular column to any position. Maybe you can carry it and bring it at the beginning right there. And maybe let's also change this particular date to a date type, date data type, so that we can eliminate the time portion. And from here, we are now good to go. Let's load this one. I'll come back over to File menu, load or close and load it to. We shall actually load this one as a connection. Why? Because if we actually load this one back into a table, it might not really make sense, because our end goal is to combine all the four worksheets. So we shall load this one as a connection only. So pick this option here, which says only create a connection. And once you do that, you say OK. After you've done that, you will see the queries and connections pane opening here, and it will show you that you have one query that is called West_data. So we can do this for all these worksheets. Let me just do for the Eastern region. So I'll do this a little bit faster, and then we go over to the last step where we need to combine. All right. So I'll come over to the add column right here, custom column. This one belongs to the Eastern. So I'll just say region. These are transactions from our Eastern region. So I'll open double quotes, type in East, and close double quotes. Make sure that there is no syntax error, and then say OK. Let's also carry this one and bring it at the beginning or at the start, so that it's column number 1. And right there, we can also change this data type to date, so that we eliminate the time portion. I believe this is what we did. Make sure that all the transformation steps you go through for all the 4 files is consistent. Now we're together. Now we are going to load this one. I'll come back to the File menu, close and load to. Let's also load this one as a connection only. Okay. We shall also come over to the Southern data set, come back to the data tab from table or range, and the Power Query editor will launch. Let's also add a custom column for this particular Southern data set, and we shall also call it region. What we are doing is we are trying to do some transformations to our regional data, and then later on combine and analyze it in one go. So I'll say this is for South. Make sure you close the double quotes. No syntax errors have been detected right there. I will say OK. Let me also carry this one and bring it at the beginning. But again, it's an issue of preference. You can leave it wherever you decide. But of course, because I want to be consistent, I've done it for the first worksheet. I'll have to do it for the second and the third and also the fourth. But you can leave it in any position of your choice. For this particular column, we shall change the data type to a date and eliminate the time portion. Also, this is a preference issue. You can also leave it the way it is if that's what you like. I will close and load to. I'll also create this one or load it as connection only. Of course, it takes some time depending on the speed of your machine. So I'll create this one as a connection only. And let's also do it for the northern data set from table or range. And we shall add a column right there. I believe everyone is following what we are doing. Our aim is to combine all the 4 worksheets. And this is one of the methods, and I'll be showing you other methods that you might use. Okay, you can also use a formula or a Power Query function. This is for the northern region. I'll say north and make sure that there is no syntax error and say okay. So having done that, we have our 4 queries right here. So all our 4 queries have been loaded. Let me load the last one here. Close and load it too. We also load this one only as a connection and say okay. Now we have all the 4 worksheets loaded in here as queries. We need to combine all these 4 worksheets into one single gigantic file that we can now do data analysis with. Okay, we have a number of options to do the concatenation or the merging. And the number one that comes in very easily is right mouse clicking on any of the queries. Remember now this is a query, but again it holds all the west underscore data row data. Now together, this is also another query. This is also another query, and we have 4 queries here. Okay, right mouse click on one of the queries and you choose one of these options here, either merge or append. Let us do the append because we want to stack all these 4 tables together so that we can form one block of data which we can use in our analysis. So I'll choose the append, and this will open or launch this particular dialog box here called the append dialog box. So here we can concatenate rows from 2 tables into a single table. Of course, if you had only 2 tables, you could leave this particular check mark right here. But because we have more than 2, I'll go with this option here, 3 or more tables. West is a table that we use it to come over to this append option. That's why you can see it's already added right here. But the rest, I can actually click on all of them or click on one by one and I say add. When I click on a table or a query and I say add, it's added here into this particular tables options that will be appended, or I can actually click all of them in one go. You just tap on each individual table holding the control key on your keyboard and then you add them in one go. Now you have west underscore data, east underscore data, south underscore data, north underscore data. All these queries will be now combined into one single gigantic table. I say okay, and the Power Query editor will launch again, and this time when it launches, it will show us another query that has been created, and this is now called the append one. Again, feel free to move in and give it a proper name. For me, I'll call this one combined data. Let me just call it combined data. And you can see that because we have used the append option, it will give you the append 1, append 2, append 3, and so on and so forth. So you change the name here to make sure that it's somehow structured. And I believe we are good to go. So for now, this is our last step. We can actually close and load into one single table. Now, instead of loading this last particular query, we shall now load it into this particular option here so that we can start our analysis. All right, let me do that. I say okay. So what happens is that we shall get a new worksheet, and you can see depending on how large the data set is, this will be our final gigantic table combining all these 4 worksheets into one, and then we can quickly start analyzing this particular data set by just inserting like pivot tables. I believe we have touched, or we have we have had classes to do with pivot tables. Everyone knows how to do or summarize data with pivot. All right, let me show you just one example here. I'll create it on a new worksheet, and I can build a pivot table report from all the 3 worksheets. Maybe let's look at each individual sales rep. I drop them into the columns here, and I'll also check or generate for either quantities or commission. Let me just go with quantities, drop it into values, and there you go. You can start now to build your analysis, and then later on you can visualize your reports. Okay, so that's one example of combining multiple worksheets using Power Query, and we have used the append option. Okay, let me hope that this is very clear. I'll go through some of the comments here in case we've gotten new people who joined. If you have any question, please use the chat or use the comment section. I'll go there and check all your questions. Okay. Bashir Ahmed, hi to all. If you're saying hi to all respectable viewers, thank you, Bashir Ahmed, right there. Kaise, you're joining from you're joining from Kismayo. I did pick this place right there. This is Kismayo SO. I don't know whether it's which country is this. Please, Casey, you're joining from Kismayo. Which country is it? So SO, I don't really understand that abbreviation. All right, let me check another comment here. The blessed Birungi, as if you have not dragged the region column from the north data to the end. I didn't remember what I did drag right there. This was just a demonstration of how we can build a pivot table report from our combined large data set. So I don't know what you're asking, but you can clarify in the comment section. Okay. Now let us move over to our next example. I'll just close over this particular file, and I may not save the changes, and let's move over to another example. How do we merge Excel tables using Power Query? You know, there's a difference between appending and merging. When you do appending, you're literally combining all those tables and stacking them together. But when it comes to merging, it's like you're creating new unique columns inside your existing data set. So let us open this file right here, and I'll show you this particular example in just a moment. So what I mean with merging is, for example, you have this sales data here. You have your date column, your items that were sold, the sales rep, the quantities, the price, and the commission rates. And you also have a unique table or a unique list of items with their product IDs. And you can see within our facts table, the IDs are not captured now together. And we also have the sales rep showing the regions that they come from right together, or the regions where they are selling products from. Now, this in data analysis or in data analytics is called a facts table. And these two tables that you're seeing here, they are called dimensional tables. When we go into classes of data modeling, we shall see how do we create relationships still using the Power Pivot or Power Query to create relationship between these three tables, the dimensional tables and the facts table. So that's literally what we want to do, or that's what it means when we say merging tables. The difference between merging and appending is that merging, we are creating new columns inside this particular raw data so that we can do the analysis. For example, right now, it is very hard to tell which product or which region is doing the best in terms of the quantities sold. It's very hard to tell from this table. Not until you create another column here looking at the regions that we have in this table and append them onto each individual record. You can use formulas to do that. You can do VLOOKUP here and connect right there. Again, that will be manual because our interest here is to automate these things. Do it once. Next time you want to do the same, it is automatic. So creating a column here using the VLOOKUP function wouldn't be a wise idea and fix the problem. But again, Power Query, that's the area where it actually shines. How it together. So we shall be doing that. I'll demonstrate this using the Power Query to create new columns inside this raw data. But again, we shall not lose the structure of this data because we're going to be working from the Power Query itself. So let me hope that everyone understands and distinguishes between the append option and the merging option. All right. Now let me click in any of these tables and come back to the data tab and come back here, table orange. Just use this option again, table orange, and load all these tables inside your Power Query. And we shall load these ones as connections one more time. So I'll come back here. There's no transformations that I may, work out. This data looks a little bit clean according to me. But again, I can change this particular data or column to specifically show as a data type. And I'm good to go. I can actually load this one into the connection. I'll come back to the file menu, close and load to. I'll load this one as a connection only. So when you load your data as a connection only, they do not actually occupy space in your worksheet. Sometimes your worksheets will start to be slow, performance-wise, because you're loading so many formulas, you're loading so much data. Power Query is here to save you from performance issues. Because when you load as a connection only, if you do not load into the table, it will actually be saved into the memory. It will not be available to take your space, but Power Query can recognize that data in its memory. Okay, let's do that for this table. And we shall also do it for these dimensional tables. So I come and click in the table. From table orange is the option you use. And for this one, there is no transformation that we need. I believe everything is clear. There are only two columns. I'll just close and load this one as a connection as well. All right. Let's also load this particular table into our Power Query. And everything looks fine. There is no any cleaning that we need to do here. I'll just come over to file menu, close and load it too. And I will load this one as a connection as well. Now, after you've done that, now it's time to merge these tables, okay? The first example that we saw, we actually did the append, which combined several worksheets together. But this one, let us try the merging option here. You can right mouse click on any of the queries and come over and say merge. After you do that, it will launch into this merge dialog box. And in here, there are a number of steps that you need to take, okay? In most cases, you have to select the facts table so that it's on top, because that's where we're actually trying to create new columns from our dimensional tables. So make sure that it's the one that is sitting on top, okay? It's called sales data. And when it comes to this particular option or the second table that you'd like to merge with, I'll click in the drop down. We can start with any. We can either do sales reps or the product list. Let us go with the product list first. So this table has only two columns. The only thing we need to tell this merge option here or merge command is which column out of these two tables from the facts table and the dimensions table are related. That's the column that you need to give. Which one do you think is related between the products list and the sales data? Of course, it is the item. So this is like we are doing a normal VLOOKUP, but this time it's inside Power Query. So what you do is you select this column and you also come into your second table and select this particular column. So we have created a connection between these two tables using this particular column called item. Because item is existing in the facts table, it also exists in our dimensional table, and this is how we can establish the connection between these two tables. And the join kind here, we have a number of options. We can do left outer, right outer, full outer. We shall go into details to understand these options. But in most cases, you use the left outer, which is all from first, matching from the second. So first, we are referring to this table, all from here that are matching from this particular second table. Okay, so make sure that this is checked, or the selection or the join kind is selected, and make sure that the selection matches, or this particular option here does not have any errors. If you have an error, just know there is something wrong. Okay, it will give you a preview here. The selection you've just made matches 324 of 324 rows from the first table. I'm comfortable with this merging right here. I can say okay. And what this one does, it will relaunch into the Power Query editor and give me the merged version now. But of course, we haven't really finished the merging, because what happens is it will give you this particular column, the new table that you're trying to connect. It's called the product list. And you can see it has some arrows facing in different directions, one facing to the left and the other one facing to the right. So this is what we shall use to actually combine or pick the columns that we need to be maintained in this new table and the ones that we don't need. When I actually click in any of this particular record, if I just point to the table, you will see down here, it actually maps looking at the item column and is connecting this particular, or doing a VLOOKUP for the product and returned the product ID. That's exactly what we are doing. Okay. Now to combine, I'll click in these double-sided arrows, click in here once. This will expand your selection and it asks you which particular field or column do you want to bring in here. Our interest is to bring in the product ID because we already have the product in that particular facts table. So what I will do is to remove the check mark here and select the column we want. That's the product ID. And make sure that this use original column name as a prefix, you turn this one off, or you remove that check mark, because what happens, it will create a weird name for you, a weird column name, and you may not like it. So make sure it is removed right there, and then you say okay. Immediately you do that, this particular column will change and it will show you the product ID. So what we have done, we have connected the facts table with our products table, and we have added in the product ID column, which was not initially there. Now at this point, when we load this particular raw data, we can now generate a report where we can, check which product ID is doing the best. Okay. Now this particular merge one, of course, that is the default naming. You can change it. I'll just call this one combined two tables. Now we have just combined the facts table with the products table, and I will hit enter key, and I believe this is good to go. We can actually come here, close, and load it too. Because we want to bring in the sales reps region column, we shall load it as a connection as well, because we can't load it as a final product that we shall use to analyze, because we haven't brought in the sales or this particular table right here. Okay, let me just load it as a connection, and I'll have this particular query combine two tables. It's only a connection. Now what I do, I right mouse click on this particular table, because now I want to combine it with the region to bring in the region column. Right mouse click, and then I say merge. I'm doing it one more time so that I can get all the three merged together. Now you can see in our facts table, this query which we have called combine two tables, we have the product ID column added. Now, this looks fine. I'll come over here and merge it with the sales rep table. Are we together? Now I need to locate in this particular facts table and this particular table that I want to merge, which column is actually tallying with what we have in the facts table. Which column? Is it the sales person? Is it the region? Our interest is bringing the region. So definitely the salesperson here is what we shall look up for here. So select this particular column as well as this one to create or to establish a connection. And from there, you can actually say, okay. Immediately you do that, of course, the Power Query editor will open depending on how powerful your machine is. Mine is doing it a little bit slow because it's not that powerful. And you get this particular default naming here. This query is now called merge1. But again, we shall give it our final name. Let's head over to this sales rep page that has, the sales rep column that has been added. When I click on one of them, just one record, you'll see the preview here. It tells me that I've found Godfrey, mapped them into this particular raw data, and this Godfrey is actually coming from the Western region. It's guessing it, right? Yes, we are doing a simple VLOOKUP, but inside the Power Query. Now I'll just click these two double-sided arrows to expand and make sure that I pick the columns that I want to be maintained or added into my final table and eliminate the other columns, because my interest is bringing the region. So I'll remove the check mark and leave it on the region column only. Make sure that the use original column name as prefix is turned off, and then you say okay. Immediately you do that, you'll see the region column has now been added into our raw data. Now I can actually name this particular merge1 query into the final. I'll call this one final. Maybe let's just call it final data set. But anyway, find any name that really suits what you're doing. I'll just call it final data set and hit enter. And now we are good to go. We are ready to load this back into a table, and then we can start analyzing. Let us do that. File, close and load it to. For this one, I'll actually load it. Now that it's the final table that we want to work with, I'll load it into a table, or I can just do pivot table report. I can load it into the data model. Let us do a table, and I'll say, okay, this will now create a final data set table. And this particular worksheet name is actually coming from the query name that we had here. We call this query final data set. And that's what exactly when you load it as a final product or clean data that you need to use, that's how it will also be named. Okay. So this is data set that looks clean according to me. We can now start summarizing this with pivot tables, and right there you can now go ahead and even visualize your reports. Okay, so I'll try one report here. I'll maybe drag the region into the rows, and I want to know what are the quantities that were sold in each individual region. Right there, you can achieve this by using the Power Query faster. But again, if we maintained our tables like they are here, it would have been very hard for us to generate a simple report like this that tells us the performance of each region, because this particular data is separated. We have 3 different tables. Okay, so that's one example of using or merging your tables into one and proceed with your analysis. Let me hope that it is very clear for most of us. And I'll go back to the chart and confirm XV. Yes, I think this is, I don't get this particular name, is XV. You're saying this is very nice. Thank you for the comment. And then Charles Amone, you're saying when doing merging, do you hold any key or you just select column from both tables? Yes, when you're doing merging, you just select a column. But if you're actually selecting multiple columns, you might be tempted to hold the the control key and, merge those columns. Since we are using only one column, you just click on the first column inside your facts table, and you also tap on the second column inside your dimensional table. So Charles, we do not hold any key on the keyboard. Are we together? Thank you for the question though. And let's move forward. Now I'll actually close this workbook. I believe everyone got these files. If you didn't pick these files, go ahead and pick them so that we can move together. The other third example I want to show you is how to connect the web or the internet and pick data from there and analyze it as well. They're going to be picking an example from the internet. So let me open this particular workbook and we start to establish this connection. We said Power Query is a tool we use to connect to various sources, bring the data into one place, combine or do transformations, and analyze it at the end of the day. So what does that one mean? It means that you can connect to the internet, you have literally, and you can later on come up with a final product. That particular data you're working from might be coming from 7 or 10 sources, but when they come into Power Query, they are combined, consolidated, and then you can do your analysis a little bit faster. Okay, let us do this example. What I'll do is, maybe the example I can use, I'll go to the internet and search for anything. Maybe let me search for, let me actually open a browser right here and search for anything that may pop up in my head. Maybe I'll search for the Premier League. Let me search for Premier League. Is it called the English Premier League winners? Maybe. Let me do that. I want to look at the winners for this particular competition from when it started, and I want to do some analysis on that particular data. So I want to pick it from any of these web pages. Let me go with this list here. List of English football champions. Okay. So this is a Wikipedia file. It's a Wikipedia page. So it has a lot of information. Our interest from this page is to pick the list of teams that have won the Premier League. For example, this table right here, we are interested in picking this table, do some transformation on it, whatever you may think, and then start doing our analysis, okay? So this particular action that we're going to be taking is using the Power Query to connect to the internet or the web, pick data, analyze it, and that's all. So whenever you're doing an analysis project, you can pick data from wherever. Whichever information you think of, this might contribute into my report I'm generating, you go and pick it from wherever it is. Whether it's on a picture, whether it's on a PDF file, whether it's on a website somewhere, Power Query can connect to all those sources, okay? So what I do, I'll copy this link, I'll copy this URL, Control C, and I'll minimize, come back to my workbook. So what I'll do is to head over to the data tab, and I have options here. Actually, the from web is an option that I have here. In case you don't access it from here, from these icons that you're seeing here, you can come to the Get Data dialog box and navigate over to other sources. And right here, we have from the web. Click on this option, and immediately you do that, it will launch into another simple, small dialog box where you need to actually declare the URL, okay? So the URL that I've copied from the internet, I'll just paste it here, Control V. This is the URL, and I'll just say, okay. I'll show you in other classes how to use the advanced tab, but let us go basic. I'll say, okay. And what this one does, it will connect to that particular website, and depending on how powerful your machine is, try to go through the data, look at what are some of the objects it can pick from that data. And once it gets done, it will open into the Power Query editor, and then it will be our role to start picking out information that we need, okay? So this navigator window will launch, wait for it to actually give you a preview of the tables that it has found out. And there you go. You can see from that particular entire URL we picked, it has given us a number of tables, HTML tables, suggested tables right there as folders, and also text. So there are two text files right there. If you want to work with those, you can actually pick one. So if I want a preview, I can click on table 1 and look at the preview right here. If this is the table I'm interested in picking from the other page, remember this is our page. So that table 1 could be this particular first table, which is Football League 1888 to 1892. I'm not sure, but you can explore the data. And we also have another table here, which is Football League 1888 to 1892. I believe that's a smaller table that I've just shown you, and also first division and so on. So my interest is to pick this particular table here, the Premier League table 1992 to present. All right, together. I just click on it and it will show me all the teams that have won this particular trophy. And the columns are not that many. We have the season, we have the champion, and the number of titles in one column. So we shall do some transformation right there. Also have the runners up, and we also have the number of times they have done that, or the number of trophies. Also have the third place, teams area, and also the winning manager. Those are few columns that we need to go through and transform as an example of connecting data from the web. So what I do at this particular navigator window is I will do transform. I don't go ahead and load this data immediately, because I would have loaded if I was comfortable with the data. I need to go through some transformation. That's why I will not load it. Otherwise, I would have clicked here and say load or load to immediately. I will not do that. I need to transform this data. Remember, we said Power Query has 3 steps: extract, transform, and load. Those are the 3 things that the Power Query does. Let us go to this second stage here. Of course, we have done the connection. Now let us transform. I click the transform option, and there are a number of things you can go through as you clean up your raw data to make it ready for analysis. Let us see what we can achieve here very fast. So the Power Query editor will open, and it will show us from this table each season in one column, the team, the runners-up, the third place people, and the winning manager. What we need to do here is let us look at each individual column and think of what we can do here in terms of cleanup. I believe members, you can suggest what we need to do here in terms of cleaning up this data to make it ready for analysis. Again, this is dependent on what you want to achieve. Let me know in the comment, looking at this particular raw data, what are some of the transformations you think we can make? Let us do that together, as I also find what should be done here, and then we do it together. Okay. Now, going through the data set, I can see I have in the first record here, I have what would have been used as column headers. They are now showing as a record. We need to promote these ones as column headers. Instead of showing column 1, column 2, column 3, and so on and so forth, we need to say season, champions, number of titles, runners up, third place, and the winning manager up here. So what I can do is, if I want to promote any column, always the first one, because it has the headers or the field names, I can click right here, and the number of options will pop up here. This is, like the shortcut, the easier method. But again, you can do it from these particular tabs that we have here for the Power Query editor. We have the file, the home, the transform, the add column, and the view. So make sure that you explore what are some of the options in this particular ribbon. Of course, the Power Query ribbon is different from the Excel ribbon. Yes, you need to get familiar and distinguish between these ribbons, okay? Now, what I will do as a shortcut is to click in this particular icon, and there's an option here that says use the first row as headers. Pick that one right there, and that step has been recorded. Instead of column 1, column 2, column 3, now we have the headers that we're interested in, and all the steps are getting recorded for us here. Each individual step is getting recorded. That's the power of Power Query. because these steps can be replayed at any time. Are we together? Now, this particular column looks good according to me. Let us look at this particular champions and the number of titles. I can see that Manchester United has actually won 8 of these trophies, Manchester United B, and so on and so forth. So they said, in this particular column, we need to separate and maybe create another column that will specifically look at the number of titles because they have been combined here. So how do we do that? Let me check in the comments as if Charles, you're saying, Charles is saying, when doing merging, this is a question I think I read. Let me check another one here. As if you're saying, XV, you're saying remove numbers. I'm not picking this particular suggestion right there. Anyway, we can remove the numbers or we can actually create a separate column because we may want to know how many trophies that each particular team has won. So how do we do that? We need to separate this column. We can do it from the transform tab here. Or if we don't do that, we can right mouse click on the column and then a number of options will pop up here. Our interest is to split this column. We want to split this column into multiple columns. We need to choose that delimiter. For those who have used the text columns feature inside Excel, this is similarly what we are doing here inside the Power Query. So select or enter the delimiter. I'll just use, we need to identify the delimiter. Is it a space? Is it the open brackets? What can we use here? Let me know in the comment, please. Can we use a space? Can we use the opening brackets? To me, I would think we use the open brackets. Yes, if we want to separate these numbers. So we can say open brackets and each occurrence of the delimiter is the default right here. So I believe these options are fine for me and I can just go ahead and say okay and see what happens. Okay, let me just say okay and there you go. You can see now the team has been left alone right here and the number of titles column is also created. Now I can go ahead and rename this to the team. I can just call it team name, whatever I want to use. It's all up to you. And the number of titles, this is now the column number of titles. I'm just doing some transformations here. These are some of the cleaning processes that we'll go through. Okay. But again, I can see on this number, this is supposed to be a number, but I'm seeing a closing bracket. We need to get rid of that closing bracket. And to do that will be quite easy. Let me check. As if XV, you're saying separate column. That's fantastic. And you're also saying here, open brackets. I believe you're on the right track. You're giving us the suggestions that we need. And let me hope that it's what I'm doing on the screen. You let me know. So let's get rid of this closing bracket. How do we do that? We right mouse click on the column and this time you're going to be replacing values. Let us do replace values. And what we want to do here is to replace the closing bracket. So I will find what? I will find the closing bracket. You come and punch it here. And we want to replace it what? With nothing. So I don't put anything here. I just simply say okay. And there you go. You can see now we have numbers. But again, these numbers are showing as text. So we need to move forward and change the number or the data type right there. So I just click it in here and the number or the data types will show up here. I can now choose to make it a whole number, which I'll do. And that is a transformation step. We have created a column that was not initially there. And whatever we are doing right now, we are transforming our data before we load it for analysis. Let's move over to the runners app. We do the same splitting, right mouse click, split column by delimiter. And we're going to be using the open brackets at each occurrence of the delimiter. These are the options you need to check. Then I will say, okay. This will create another column right there. And this one will now be the runners up team. Runners up team. And I don't know whether this is the runners up number of times, but I'll say number of times. Let me just do that. Number of times they have, found themselves in the runners up position. And for this column, I will replace values. Remember, this data came from the internet. Now it is inside Excel, and we are trying to, clean it up and make it ready for analysis. Now I replace this closing bracket with nothing. I'll say okay. It comes in, of course, as text. It's supposed to be a number. How do we change? If I click in this particular column and check the data type, it is actually text right up here. So we need to change it. Click here and make it a whole number. Are we there? And you can see by default it will align to the right. Okay. We come over to the third place or the third place. I right mouse click, split this column by a delimiter. Which delimiter have we identified? It's the opening brackets. So I use the opening brackets at each occurrence of the delimiter. I say okay. Let me hope that members you're following. And this one here, we shall call it, this is the third place team. Third place team. And change these column headers to any of your choice. And the number of times. I'm just assuming, I'm not sure that these numbers that are indicated here are the number of times or are titles, whatever it might be. But let us move forward. I'm just showing you how you can deal with these cleanup processes, okay? We shall be looking up for the closing brackets, replace it with nothing, and say okay. All right, let us change this one to a whole number. Are we together? Now, the winning manager, I believe everything seems to be fine. The data set is fine. The data type is okay for the winning manager. Maybe I can change this particular character to capital winning manager so that I can have consistent column headers. So I believe our data is forming into a cleaner one. If I'm comfortable right now, I can actually rename this Power Query. I can name this query. Come here and give it a clean name. I'll call this one Premier League Champions. Premier League Champions. I've connected this data from the internet. Okay. Now I'm good to go. I can come over to the file menu, close and load to. I'll just close this one and load it directly into a table. Right there. I can do existing worksheet and load it right here and say okay. So this will load our clean table that we can use to do analysis. You get the idea? Now what happens is that when this particular table on the website updates, for example, this table, let me check what is the latest. Who is the latest person who won this particular title? I believe it's, let me check. I need to scroll down and check. So if this particular table, in other words, is updated at whatever time, what I need to do in my Excel file here is to right mouse click and refresh. Once I refresh this report and there has been a change on the internet, it will feed through. I will not need to go through any of the steps that we have done to clean up. I'll just do a refresh here and all the data will update. That's the power of using Power Query. I believe you've learned something so far. Let me know in the comment. If you haven't learned something, I believe you have learned. That's what I always say here in these classes. If you don't learn, at least unlearn something. All right. Now, that's an example of connecting to the web. Let me know in the comment section what you actually think. I can see, I believe XV is, but XV, you need to tell me your real names. XV, kindly tell us your real names. Feel free to tell me your real name so that I can address you properly. And where you're joining us from, by the way, is very important, okay? But thank you for being active and making this particular session interactive, okay? You're saying that you're actually learning a lot from this particular session. And let me know where you're joining us from. That will really make me comfortable. Okay. But again, we should be moving forward to the next example. Let me just close this workbook and I'll say don't save. And I also close this web page here. And we go back to our folder right here. How do we connect to a PDF this time? Hey, let us check. Can Power Query connect and pick data from a PDF document, wherever it might be, whether the document is on the internet, whether the document is locally on your machine? Let us do that. I'll come here and open this example number 4. And once this particular workbook opens, I can now try to connect in a PDF file. Let's do that. I'll come over to the data tab and I say get data. That's what I have for Office 365. But for you might have a different naming of these things here. I have it as get data and I'll get it from file, navigate over to PDF right here. So I can pick data from a PDF document. Let's do that. I click in there. Depending on how powerful your machine is, it will open the navigator so that you can locate where the file is. So mine is actually inside this particular folder, and I call this one list of registered engineers with valid practicing licenses 2019. This is the PDF file I want to connect to. So I'll just click on it and say import. I'm trying to import data into Power Query from a PDF document. Okay. Depending on how powerful your machine is, the Power Query tool will scan through your document, try to establish a connection to that particular file wherever it is located, and once it figures out a number of objects that you might be interested in, it will launch into another window. Okay, this navigator window right there, and it will show you a number of objects. Now it's up to you how you want to use these objects, but let us wait as it's still connecting our PDF file. This process takes a lot of time depending on the speed of your machine. Okay, finally it has shown us all the tables and the pages that that particular PDF file has. Okay, showing us the tables. You click on the table and you look at the data. That's how it looks like. Also requires some cleanup process before it's ready for analysis. For whatever reason you might be connecting to that file, you may need to go through a cleanup process. Okay, so these are the pages, these are the tables that have been identified in that PDF document. And again, it shows you the pages themselves. You can look at page per page. When I click on a page, you say this table is empty. So these are just pages. The workbook or the file, the PDF file, has 39 pages. You can see from page 1 all the way through to 39 pages. And for the tables that have been seen, you can see table 1, table 001 on page 21, table 002 on page 24 and 22 and 24. So that table stretches from page 22 to page 24. It's entirely that table. Table 003 is on page 25, and so on and so forth. Now, how do we combine all these pages together and form one gigantic file that we can use to do our analysis? Are we together? We need to do that very fast. Of course, the process looks a little bit similar to what we have done previously, and the only difference here is that we need to bring all these tables in one go. We need to clean them up in one go. So we shall go through an extra step right there. But in case you are enjoying the session, please type in the comment right now. I'd love to hear your feedback. In case this is your first time joining us on this particular session, I'd like to hear your feedback in the comment. And also let me know if you're learning something. And the other request that I want to make is please like this particular live, share it with a colleague who might be interested in learning more about Excel. And if you want to get notified every time we go live, we have free classes every single Friday. You only need to go into the description of this video and check the link that I've provided to join our WhatsApp community, where you can actually start enjoying such live free Excel classes. But let me know in the comment section whether you're enjoying the class, are you learning a thing or two, and let me know if this is your first time here. I love to go there and check. So Waiswa Paul, okay, Alex, you're confirming that you're joining us from Juba. That's fantastic. You're called Alex. Thank you very much. Joining us from Juba. That is Southern Sudan right there. Waiswa Paul, will this be recorded and shared? Yes, the recording will be available immediately the session ends. The link that you use to join this class is the same link you can click on to watch the replay or the recording of this class. Okay, that's Waiswa Paul right there. Kahira Roland, you're actually saying, hope this is recorded. Very interesting. Of course, it's getting recorded. It will be available immediately the session ends, and you can use the same link to go in and practice. I've shared all the files with you. Just go ahead and watch the replay as many times as you can as you practice along, in case you can't pick some of the things on the live session. Emmanuel Ivu, today I personally learned a lot. Thank you very much. This is Kusemererwa Donna. I'm learning about the Power Query, but my windows are different from yours. Yes, if the operating system is different, maybe you're running your Excel on a Mac, iOS operating system, or you're doing Linux, of course, you'll get different interfaces. And depending on the version of Office that you're running, you'll also get different interfaces. So again, the logic will not change, or the actions that we are doing here will not change, but what might slightly change is the interface. So I don't think that Kusemererwa Donna, you'll face any challenges. Otherwise, you'll let us know which which operating system you're running. Is it Windows? Is it iOS? Is it Linux? Is it Ubuntu? Which one are you using? Okay. Let me check some other person here. Moi Philippelias. Beautiful work. I've been suffering from this, and how you made it simple. Absolutely. Absolutely. If this is your first time joining us, Moi Philippelias, please head over to the description of this video, join the WhatsApp community so that we shall be inboxing you all these classes as they go live. Okay. Let me check another person here. This is Ronnie Sky, streaming live from Dubai. Bro, you're doing an amazing work. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay. So keep the comments coming through and like this particular live. Keep liking, keep sharing with colleagues who might be late, and join us for the next few minutes that we are here so that they can learn something. Okay. To Kahira Roland, I believe you're coming in again. Hope this will be found in the forthcoming classes. Absolutely. Actually, in our forthcoming classes, which will be a full course, we shall go a little bit deeper from what you're seeing here. With Power Query, we shall show you some more stuff. Power Query is that wide, but the beauty is that when you master Power Query in Excel, you'll have mastered Power Query inside Power BI. This is the engine that still runs inside the Power BI platform, of which every one of us who are here and you might be interested in data analytics, Power BI is a tool that must be on your menu to master. So mastering Power Query will really support you, or will really help you, because you will have actually learned a tool that lives in two separate or in two different applications. So when you move over to Power BI, it will be a walkover for you. Okay. Now let's move forward. Let's move forward and combine all these pages that we have just seen inside our PDF document. So what I'll do, I'll make sure that I check this option here, which says select multiple items. This is the first time we are using this option inside our navigator. And I will pick all the tables that I'm interested in, because I want to load that entire gigantic table inside the list of engineers that are certified with practicing licenses. Okay, so I'll click on each individual table. Just keep placing a check mark like this. Are we together? Just do that very fast and make sure that all your tables are selected. Now, we have 39 pages, 39 tables that we need to transform. I'll come over to the transform tab and click in here once. Remember, we have connected to PDF file. This is amazing. Okay, depending on the speed of your machine, it will actually go through all the tables, and now we can start cleaning up all these tables, and later on we can combine them into one file which we can analyze later. Okay, so let us do that very fast. I'll come over to the first page, and I may call this one maybe the name of the query. I may change it and say page 1. Okay, and hit enter key on the keyboard. Now let us transform or change what we have on page 1, and see we have the title here for this particular document, list of engineers for 2019 practicing licenses. We may not need that particular title right there. So what I do to get rid of the first column so that we can promote the second row as our column headers, I'll just click in this option and say remove top rows. There's an option here called remove top rows. Once the dialog box launches, you declare how many rows from the top you want to be trimmed. Okay, so our interest is to trim off only one row. I'll punch in a 1 and say okay, and there you go. You can see we still maintain column 1, column 2, and so on and so forth. Now what we need to do is to promote this particular first record, or use the first row as headers, and there you go. You can see now we have number, registration number. Maybe we can change this title and call it serial number. You can change these particular field names, and for registration number you can change it as well. I think my screen went off. I don't know whether guys you can see the screen. Can someone confirm that I'm back on as if I went off? But confirm if I'm back on as if I got an internet disconnection here. Can someone confirm in the comment that I'm back and everything seems fine, so that we can move forward and clean this particular file here? Can someone confirm in the comment as if I got a technical glitch here? Zaki Yusuf, I think you're confirming that we are fine. Yeah, you're confirming that everything is fine. If that is the case, then we can move forward. Okay. Now, we are still cleaning up this particular table that we are picking from our PDF file. And the other thing that I will do is, you can see this column here has some titles that we have right here for some of the names. Just scroll through and confirm. So we have the serial number, we have the registration number, we have this column here that is almost empty. I can see null. Again, I have engineer Sekanyu right there, engineer Luboa. So I may not want to lose this type of information. What I do is I will actually merge these two tables. I will merge these two columns so that I don't lose any information that might be in this particular column. So let's do that. I believe that will be an idea. But again, if you delete this particular column, it means you'll have lost this guy whose record is actually spilling to this column. I know this is a tedious activity that you have to go through, but again, you do it once. That's the beauty. So how do we combine these columns? I click on the first one and the second using the control key on my keyboard, and I right mouse click and say merge columns. We need to merge them, merge columns. And once this one opens or the dialog box launches here, I need a separator. Of course, the separator will be a space. And for the merged column, I'll call this one full names. Maybe I'll just say full names is the new column that I want to get. And these two will be combined. And of course, it is a text data type, which is fine. I leave it the way it is. And there you go. Now for the field of practice, I believe this column is doing fine. And for the license number, this column seems to be doing fine as well. This is supposed to be text. And for this last column here, I believe we need to delete this column. So what I will do is to right mouse click and remove. So that column will be gone. What I can do for page 1 is to close. I come back to file menu, close and load. What do you expect we should do here? Where do we load this one? We load it as a connection. So we say create only a connection, and there you go. You'll get a connection right there for all the pages. Are we together? And from here, what we can do is to merge these pages or to append these pages. Okay, so let us do that. I right mouse click and say merge or append. Let us do append. Let's do append because we want to stack all these tables or pages and form one single gigantic table. So I'll say 3 or more, and I'll pick all of them. Make sure that all of them are selected in one go. And then I say add. This is an action that we have, or this is an example that we started with, and I'll say okay. So this will still launch into the Power Query editor, and we shall have the append one query. Now, inside this particular query, we can rename this one. Maybe I'll call it list of engineers. It's supposed to be list of registered engineers. List of registered engineers, and hit enter key on the keyboard. Now I can come back to file, close and load to. And I load this one now directly into a table and then start doing my analysis. I will do existing worksheet and load it starting from this cell address A4. Maybe let me just put it on A1 right there and say okay. Once I do that, we shall get a final table, and this particular final table is what we can use to do our analysis. But again, I'll open the PDF file and show you where we have come from to achieve this particular data that you're seeing here. Okay. Let me just wait a little bit to have my query or extracting the data. And there you go. Now you have your data showing up here. We have some other columns that we forgot to remove. They've come along. I think we haven't removed some of the columns. But let me hope that members, you get the idea of how you can actually extract data from PDF files. Okay, let me just check or open the file so that you can have a look at it. Okay, so this is the file that we are looking at, and this is engineers registration board, and this was a list that was released to the public in 2019, and this is the table that we've been extracting using the Power Query. So we ended up with this particular beautiful data set that we can use in our analysis, but everything came from this particular PDF file. So if you have a PDF file and there's information you want to pick from there, Power Query is here for you. Okay. Now let us close this file. I'll just say don't save and head over to the last example that I'd like to show you. And this is what really brought us here. We want to see how we can automate or connect to a folder and automate combining these files for analysis. Okay, so I'll open this worksheet and I'll head over to my desktop and locate the folders. I might have not shared these files with you. They are quite big files, and these are real data from an organization. I may not easily share the files with everyone, but again, let us use this data to do a demonstration here. Okay, our interest is to connect to a folder and pick data, do a cleanup right there, and start doing our analysis. And this should be an automatic steps or an automated process in the future when data comes in. Now, to explain the scenario that we want, to work with is you have sales data that you keep getting on a monthly basis. For example, you can see in this folder, which I've called PQ, we have August data that has come in, we have September and October data. Now, if this is the folder that keeps on receiving your monthly files, but the way how the monthly files show up is quite messed up, you can't do analysis, then you can automate that process. Let me just open one file here, just for you to see what we are interested in doing, okay? I'll just open one file and see how it comes up when extracted from the system, from any of your ERP systems that you might be using. It could be QuickBooks, it could be SAP, it could be Dynamics 365. Any system that you can download data from can give you data in a different format. Now, when you want to analyze it into Excel or with Excel, you have to do some transformation, okay? The file is quite huge, it's still loading, and this is how it looks like. These are transactions that have been picked from a billing system, and this particular data set looks a little bit messed up, and we want to go through a number of transformations. Of course, the first thing that I did tell you that whenever you're going to be doing a data analysis project or work, understand the data that you're working with, okay? So what I'll do, I'll actually go through this particular data set with you, understand it, and see what are the things that we need to deal with. What are some of the, let me check, as if we have some comments. Let me check. So this comment is stuck on our screen. Let me remove it. So look through the data and tell us in the comment which particular data transformation steps you expect we should be going through here, okay? Of course, I can see in the first row, we have the order number here, we have the meter serial number. This is transactions data for an electricity distribution company. And this is, this is how it comes from the system. You can see this column is completely empty. You can see from the rows here, the rows have different, different row heights. One of them are very small, some of them are very small, 8, and the other ones, let me check the row height for these bigger ones, 25. So this is how the system does it automatically. And there are also so many merged cells here. When, for example, I check in this particular value here, this is, for example, the money that was used to do energy purchases. You can see there is a merger here and there is a wrap text. So all those things are not necessary or are not needed when you're doing data analysis. You can see there are a number of columns that are merged or cells, like this one here. This is the cash that was received. You can see column F and G, they have been merged. This is a behavior that you get from the system. When it comes to Excel, it shows differently, and we need to clean up all those things. Some columns are quite small and some rows are quite small. That's one. We have mergers that we need to deal with. We have to transform some columns. You can see the data set itself for the numbers. We have these green triangles here. What do they mean? It means that there is a problem with this value. It's actually a number, but it's recognized as text. So there's no arithmetic that you can carry on such numbers, okay? And when it comes to, let's check the last column here. When it comes to the last column, you can see that our date column is combining the date itself and the time. Maybe when you're doing your analysis, you may want to look at which time, does the most transactions come in, so that time is prioritized. Maybe the office is always open. You want to do analysis on your time. So you can't do analysis on your time when it actually shows like this. If you want to know which date brought in the most revenue, maybe for one reason or the other, as a data analyst, you may want to dig in and inform management, that this time between 9 and 10, these hours, make sure that your systems are up and running, because this is the time when people are buying the most, okay? Those are some of the questions that we might answer. And this data looks a little bit gigantic, very huge. If you actually try to scroll it down, even my machine might freeze, but let me try. Scroll and go over to the last record. And then after looking at the number of records, because I can't actually select from here to show all the possible records because there are some gaps. There are empty cells, there are empty rows, there are empty cells, there are empty columns. So the data is quite messed up. There is no data analysis activity that can happen on this particular data set. Now, let me hope that we appreciate the problem, and let's head over to Power Query and deal with that particular problem. All right, let us know in the comment if you understood the problem, and once we all understood or we all understand the problem, we can go ahead and solve that particular problem. All right, I'll check through the comments here as our file is still scrolling through, and it's doing that because it's actually heavy. The file is heavy. Taban Oliver, you're saying it's okay. I don't know what is okay on your side, but confirm. Taban Oliver. Waiswa Paul, you are confirming that we are back. And someone I think has a question here. Bro, I'm asking, so this workbook file connected to internet? No, this file that we're gonna be using is not connected to the internet. Let me check. Abdiaziz, Sunny Bilo, great work, Mr. Vilonji, that's wonderful. Let's scroll through all these comments. Irene, you're saying thanks so much. And Ochola, you're saying thank you very much, sir. And again, you have, is this a question? Your teaching is new every day. All right, Ochola, thank you for those messages. So you can see that this particular gigantic file is quite huge. We have thousands of records that we need to clean, and we have a number of files. Okay, I'll just close this one out and go back to the folder called PQ, and you can see we have 3 files that we want to clean in one go, and any other future file that drops into this folder will automatically be cleaned for us by Power Query, and we should be able to refresh the report immediately and instantly. Our values will update. Okay, let's do that. Head over to the data tab, get data, and from file, this time we shall point it to the folder option. So click on the folder option, and in there, depending on how powerful your machine is, the browse window will open, locate the file. Mine is on the desktop, and it's in this folder here, PQ. So what I want, I'm setting up that folder as my main folder where all my reports will be dropping. When colleagues share with me their monthly transactions, they will be dropping into this folder. Okay, I'll say open. This will now establish the connection between Power Query or the file where I'm generating the report from and the folder. And this dialog box opens here. The number of steps that you need to take here. Of course, we can combine and transform, that is our interest, or we can actually load, directly load into a table or load to, can pick. We can do transformation and we can cancel. Our interest is to combine all those 3 gigantic transaction files into one single file that we can use into our analysis. Okay, so the option that I will go for is the combine and transform. So you click on this option here, combine. Then it says combine and transform data, combine and load, or combine and load to. So ours will be combine and transform data. Let's go with that option. And right after that, the Power Query will evaluate our folder files, and it will try to establish the connection. How fast depends on how powerful your machine is. You can see mine is struggling to establish the connections here, but again, I believe we shall be able to achieve. Okay, all right. You can see it has actually used one of the files because that folder had 3 files. So the first file that is choosing to use is the August file, but of course we have October and September data. Okay, now it has actually located that in that particular file there's a sales report table or a sales report worksheet. That's the data it has actually seen. So we can click in here to do a preview. the preview is evaluating, and this is the raw data that we had. Once it comes into the Power Query, you can see everywhere there is nothing, it actually shows null values. If a column is completely empty, then it will show us null values all the way through. So null is empty. And some cell addresses that do not have anything in them also show null in there. So we need to do a lot of transformation. I'll accept and say okay. And in here, what I will do when my queries start processing, I'll open into the Power Query editor and start my transformation. The things that we talked about, the problem that we described when we looked at this particular data at the beginning, okay? As I wait for this to evaluate and open, please let us know in the comment section if you're learning a thing or two. If you're enjoying, please double tap or, like the session. That will really tell the YouTube algorithm that people are enjoying this particular class, and it may show to other people like you. Or you can actually go ahead and share this particular class with a colleague. Once they click on the link, they will be able to come in and learn with you. Okay? Share only with people who are interested. Do not just share with everyone. Share in your WhatsApp groups where you come from. People will come here and watch the review of this particular class, okay? So my PC seems to be a little bit slow. That's why you're saying that Power Query is taking its time to go through this entire process. But once it's ready, we should be able to do our data cleaning and processing and load it back into our Excel. All right, just leave in any comment. Let us know if you're enjoying these sessions. And if you do, feel free to share these particular classes with other colleagues, okay? Now we get our preview here. So what Power Query has done is it has actually picked the PQ name or the Power Query name from the folder which we are connecting to. So this one looks to be fine to me. And these are the steps that are going to be recorded here. These are steps that Power Query has gone through by itself, okay? Looked at the source right there. And when you click in here, you might be taken back to the source here. So this is where we started from. So each particular value that you're seeing in this content column is actually holding the file. If I click in here, you'll see this is August, and it tells us the bytes or how large this file is. When I click in here, you'll see this is October file. So each individual record you see here is holding an entire Excel file that you saw that has that number of transactions. Very huge. So Power Query or Power Pivot can handle millions of records. So every time your project grows, please think of Power Query as a tool that we'll use, okay? So it has actually filtered out hidden files, invoked the custom function, renamed some columns. All these are just automated processes or steps that it has taken on its own, and it has expanded the table right there. This is what we had. And it has also done some changes in the data type. What it thought it could actually pick through, it was changed. Again, now we can build from what we are seeing here and carry on with our data cleaning, okay? Let's do that. Now, the source name here has been brought in. It's up to you whether you want to keep it or not, but we may not need this source column because we already have the date column. The date column will be able to give us the month name. So I'll right mouse click and remove this column. Okay. And column 1 right there, you can see it is completely empty. So that's an empty column in our raw data. I'll actually highlight, remove the column. And there you go. You can see now the order number, the meter serial number, the customer number. These columns seem to be doing fine. The customer name, the amount, this one will be amount paid, okay? And the column 7 seems to be completely null. You can look at all these null values. So this is a column we need to remove. Right mouse for energy purchase, have column 9 and column 10 all empty. If I want to remove all of them at once, I'll click one and then holding Control, I click on column 10 and right mouse click and remove. Columns. I go on, I call it monthly service fee. Okay. And I also have column 13 is completely empty. I'll do for column 13 is to remove it entirely. Okay. Are we together? I remove it entirely. Just colleagues, confirm if my screen is fine.